What? And he's going to introduce himself. Yes, sir.
Hello. Hi, everybody. It's been a wonderful day for me. I mean, I should thank ICT for inviting me. I want to thank actually two of my senior colleagues. One is Lawrence. Lawrence, do you want to stand up? Right. Lawrence actually is our leader for academic initiatives, and he's a local boy. And then we have Rajesh. He's our technology leader. He's again a local boy. And both of them approached me and said, "Can you come and talk in this forum?" I said, "Why do you want an outsider without technology knowledge, without knowledge of academic initiatives to come and talk?" They said, "We are giving you an opportunity to learn." And believe me, 2 books full of notes right from the morning. So thank you very much for that. So do I have the slides? So here's the problem. After every talk, I actually went down to the lobby and updated my slides because what I was trying to talk became redundant. So I know Ramesh had a great introduction on technology. We both come from the same industry of middleware, and so a lot of things I wanted to talk on cloud, social, mobile are no longer relevant. Ravi had some very good examples of the woman who launched 1,000 ships in the Greek Sea. So my videos are also redundant. Dr. Rajshri actually set it up very, very well in terms of an instrumented, interconnected world. She talked about the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which is one of the largest projects. And if I'm not mistaken, there are about 200 or 300 subcontractors who actually work on building a complex engineering system with systems of systems, right? Every system all together and making it work for about 50 to 100 years. I mean, that's a humongous task. So, as I said, I would actually like to go there like a Gen Y or a millennial, though I'm not, my gray hair, I'm probably before Gen X, and actually show you a demo of all that everybody spoke. So we'll do that later. But how many of you are on Twitter? Weeks ago, I took up this job 3 weeks ago, and all that I've been doing is traveling across the country, meeting students, meeting entrepreneurs, meeting professors, meeting ISVs, meeting system integrators. I would have done about 100 meetings. I do on an average 6 to 7 meetings in the last, almost every day, right? And I was humbled. I mean, I was humbled to the limit where I said, what am I doing? And there are totally new ways of building your own social profile. At the end of the day, why do we all exist? One is to make the world a better place. The second is actually for us. I went on to Twitter 3 weeks back, and all I did was followed. I followed every area of interest, every thought leader that I knew of. Can you switch to the internet screen? Oh, not the Airtel one. Go for the Google Chrome and go to the first tab, right? Just go up and down. So you have Vinod Khosla, you have Tom Peters, you have Ratan Tata, you have Bill Gates. I mean, I'll talk about Aldous Huxley, and then musicians, some of the musicians that I like. So I don't know what your area of interest is, but there is a wealth of information. Facebook is a little more family and the thoughts of these great thought leaders. So if your interest is in management, and that's the only way to actually stay ahead or at least be at the same level as peers, as students. So last week I actually met this student who's in the 3rd year of engineering. He's the CEO of a company, and he leads something in IEEE, and he has this 1st year engineering student who's a CTO of the company. And I was so impressed by what they are doing that we actually invited him as a keynote in one of our conferences. And believe me, I've been in IBM. Today is actually my 10th service year in IBM. I complete 10 years. I have never got an opportunity to speak before a worldwide keynote who comes from US. And then there is this 20-year-old boy who actually talks as the keynote, and then our worldwide guy speaks. So, and he's a Sanskrit scholar, by the way. And I heard a lot about English and the need for being correct on English or having the right kind of English accent and all those things. I have a differing opinion. I think India has two of the most ancient languages, Sanskrit and Tamil, and it's very unfortunate. I feel very unfortunate that I can't read both these languages. I unfortunately have to read English authors who translate our books in our languages in English to understand what we had to say. And one more thing, I again met a scientist who's actually working on biosimilars. And biosimilars, actually he spent about 1 hour talking about what biosimilars is and what German technology is doing. And at the end of it, I actually felt biosimilars is Ayurveda. It's already there in our books. I think we have the wealth of the knowledge. What we lack, I think, is the way to market it. A lot of our ideas actually go back to the US, and that really is the ecosystem of professors, of students. We have the most brilliant minds. So if you go to Silicon Valley, the top entrepreneurs there are Indians. So the opportunity is there for us to actually move our students from just improving their skills and trying to look for another job, but actually we can help set up more. IBM can work with you all. We do that in a lot of these colleges, and get these people before they actually get into a job and get into a way of thinking, and when their creativity is really killed, to actually make them entrepreneurs. Because we want people to provide more jobs, because the number of, I remember Mr. Velu Murugan saying 46 lakh people will have that kind of shortage. So if you don't have at least 10,000 to 15,000 entrepreneurs by 2020 or 23, we are not going to be able to fill up that gap. So I think that's a great opportunity which I learned from today's event. Can you go back to the slides, please? Yeah, next slide. That's the thing I like. So I get a chance to give you a quiz, actually 2 Viva Voces, so no prizes for it, right? So the first question, so this is, I actually met someone extremely intelligent. I think that girl was a genius and extremely intelligent. And she asked me a question. Actually, it was not a question, it was like a quiz, or it was a puzzle. She said, there is this man who was very depressed and sad in life, and he was sitting in his living room. Then he got even more depressed, and then he walked down to the cupboard, took out a bottle of poison, and drank it. But he did not die. Can anyone give the answer for this? Any answers? Why did the man not die? No? Any more answers? Okay, the answer is he was sitting in the living room. So how can he die? So the same, simple answer for a simple question. I have tried asking this question to so many different people, and we go into very rational, scientific arguments of the bottle was broken and the poison had gone out, or his wife had replaced the poison with Amrit, and I can give you 100 different answers. Second question from this person, right? What is at least the size of an elephant, or even bigger than an elephant, but has no weight? Any answers? Loudly, I think I heard the answer somewhere. Yeah, that's the correct answer. Shadow of the elephant, right? Again, a very simple question, a very simple answer. And both these questions were actually asked by a 2.5-year-old girl who's actually the daughter of a colleague of mine. And I would like to actually, I always take her name. Her name is Nia Lobo. That girl is so brilliant. At that age, I probably never even spoke. So there is clearly, we can see that, as a human being, as a species, we are evolving, right? The children are more intelligent. In fact, I met a couple of, Federal Bank has launched an online mobile app which can give you your entire passbook. And I hear that it was created by a guy who is about 14 or 15 years old, right? So Federal Bank is putting in crores of money of advertising, kind of promoting this app. So clearly the new generation, you can call them millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen X, they are smarter than us. What we have is experience to actually help them channel their energy into positive things for the earth, for India, and which can help the world. So let's go on to the next slide, and that's really the tale of two worlds, and where y'all have the opportunity to shape the destiny of the country and the world. So, very futuristic book. Has anyone heard of Aldous Huxley? So Aldous Huxley is a brilliant, brilliant writer and comes from a family of Nobel laureates. And he wrote a book called as A Brave New World in 1930. And when I read it, I was like shocked. And this was about a world of 2600, that is another 300, 400 years from now. But as I see it, this world is already here. He talked about test tube babies. He talked about human beings moving from communities into individual entities, into nuclear families. He talked about computers taking over people, dehumanization. He talked about superficial relationships, right? He was again a Sanskrit scholar. So he talked about this society in this brave new world in which people used to take a medicine called a soma, so that the governments could control them, could control their mind. These people did not have free will, but they had all the happiness because everything was provided for by the government. This is the world that we are slowly going towards, where because of the lack of resources and because of the fast increase in technology, we are going towards this brave new world, which is a dystopic world. And after 32 years, he actually wrote a very positive book. Can you go on to the next slide, please? He wrote about a world called as Island, right? And this island is all about revelation. The people of this island, the name of the island was Apala Island, and surprisingly, a lot of the names of the characters in this island are Indian names. And here the people actually used technology for the benefit of mankind, and they used technology for the benefit of nature, right? And children were, taught not to just rote and repeat things, but actually get authentic self-experience of everything that they do. And that's why there is no picture in the center, because authentic self-experience cannot be seen, it can only be experienced, right? And it was a very positive book, and it was his last book before he died. Go on to the next slide, please. A lot of these people, and all of you out there, can help us do this, right? And we have the notion of Guru, and Guru is one who dispels darkness. And the teacher who has to have, but the challenge today is, because of cloud, because of being generated through multiple sources, it's very difficult for one person to have more knowledge than the other. You can just have different levels of knowledge. So collaboration and communication and interconnectedness becomes very important. Go on to the next slide. So the three imperatives for the new world. So there's a build in the consciousness that's happening. Intellect and intelligence are growing. So the future generations are actually more intelligent than we are. But where we are kind of going behind, and I was very happy to actually see Mr. Ravi actually show some very good A.R. Rahman music, is that we are not focusing enough on language, music and arts. India is known for having people having multifaceted talents. And to be an entrepreneur, it's very important to be a specialist in one or two areas, but actually to be a jack of multiple trades. You should be able to do marketing, you should be able to do a little bit of things, and of course you should know technology. Can you move on to the next slide? Here we are talking of cognitive systems, right? We started with tabulating systems, programmable systems, we talked about middleware, we talked about social, mobile, cloud, big data, analytics, and all those things are over. We're talking of cognitive systems, artificial intelligence, systems which learn on their own. So you ask the system a question, it answers it, and it learns based on the questions that you ask. Next slide, please. So these are the 5 things. I won't repeat this. I think most of the people have talked about it. Internet of Things, mobile, cloud, social, next slide, and big data. Yeah, this is what I want to focus on, and this is the reality. And it might look like this is not the reality of India, but India is moving so fast to this reality that we have to accept it at some point of time, right? There is no more natural resource available in the world. We are currently at about 140% of output. If you look at the world as a factory, we are running at 140%. So there is a shortage of natural resource, and the only resource that we have is data. And there is more data that's been generated in the last 2 years than in the last 300,000 years of mankind, right? And this data is unstructured data. This is not your structured data which can be captured. This is data captured as videos, as social, as tweets, as blogs. And how do you actually analyze this data? How do you use this data for your benefit in terms of scientific research or medical research or in terms of making your business better? Because what the millennials are saying, so I'm not even talking of generation Y, we're talking of millennials, right? The people born in 2000, they are going to be the consumers for business in the next 5 years, right? They are the people who are going to actually open new bank accounts. And I remember again Mr. Vail Morgan talking about that 24 years is going to be your average age of people in 2022, right? So the guys in 2022 who will be 24 are millennials today. So those are the guys we are talking to. And 84% of these guys say that social and user-generated content has an influence on what they buy. I'll give you an example. So I'll give you an example. My wife is not a millennial. I did not do child marriage. But still, she uses a lot of the mobile technologies. What she buys totally depends on what her friends and her peer group actually recommends. And everything is online. She doesn't go to a shop and buy things. And pretty much everything from provisions to what we need for the entire month is bought online and is based on decision on what her peer group is actually telling. 85% of the new software is being built for the cloud. I mean, that's a reality. And its cloud is the power on which India is going to ride. If you really look at the Indian market, so if you look at the Indian market, right, our pyramid is the other way around. So the tip of the triangle actually points down. Most of the people that we have, the opportunities that companies have is in the small and medium business. 80 to 85% of our population is in the lower half of the strata. And we can actually make a difference to their lives by using cloud, right? In a traditional university kind of atmosphere, I will wait for, so I start from 0. That means I have more time. So, no, I won't. I knew 3 minutes, 26 seconds was left, so I'll try to complete in the promised time frame. Yeah. So, we have an opportunity with cloud to actually make our businesses at the lower end of the spectrum profitable. You don't need to invest in servers. You don't need to invest in middleware. You don't need to invest in software. You don't need to spend time learning programming languages. You don't need to spend time learning platforms, learning runtimes, learning operating systems. Those days are gone. Everything is available on the cloud, provisioned for you. All you need is a very good internet connection. That's all you need. And I'm going to take 1 minute demonstrating that to you, right? Go to the next slide. And software delivery, right? Software delivery is the cusp of innovation. And that's the power of India. India will have the largest number of software developers by 2019. As of now, we are number 2 in the world. In 2019 to 2022, India will have the largest developer population in the world. And that's really the power of India. That's really the power on which our academia is actually the wealth of I would say, innovation that we are sitting on. And we need to harness on that power to drive in software delivery innovation across mobile, across social media, across big data, cloud, instrumented products and intelligent connected systems. Next slide. And DevOps or continuous engineering is no longer software engineering. Gone are the days of waterfall models, gone are the days of agile methods. We are talking of continuous engineering. we are not talking of delivery life cycles, ma'am, in that matter, also in the area of systems engineering. We're talking of systems engineering in a DevOps mode. We're talking of deploying real-time software, and there are real-life case studies of GM and other automotive majors who have more lines of code than a F-16 aircraft, deploying code for your braking systems real-time over the web, so that consumers don't have to go to a shop and get their car repaired, or there is no danger of them losing their life because the braking system is not working, which is built on software, right? So the time frames for software delivery real-time on mobile and on any kind of instrumented stuff is really shrinking. So I have 50 seconds, and let's see if we can do a demo in 50 seconds. Hello? Yeah. So there are a whole lot of, I'm just showing you an IBM one, but there is Microsoft available. I'm sure Oracle has it. I wanted to be vendor neutral, but this is what I have access to. So there are a whole lot of development on the cloud platforms available for agile change configuration management. There are a whole lot of open source projects that are available in the market. So you don't need to start writing code from scratch, right? As professors, you can join these projects and start contributing to these open source projects. As an example, there is a sentiment analysis app on Twitter. A whole lot of these projects you can contribute, create your own projects, get your students to your project. They might have better programming knowledge on some particular platform, doesn't matter, but you can actually still help them with their projects. Then there is platform as a service. Students, and all these are free of cost. You don't need to spend any money. This is available on the cloud. No hardware needed, just an internet connection. I'm running on a 3G internet connection. Yeah. So again, there are a whole lot of these platforms as a service. So you no longer need to actually worry about what kind of runtime I'm using. So for example, you can use Liberty for Java, you can use Node.js, you can use Ruby on Rails, Ruby on Sinatra. I don't need to write the APIs. The whole world is moving towards an API economy. And me as a person, without having a technical knowledge, can pull together 5 or 6 composable services and quickly build an application. So no hardware installation, no server instance creation, right? I'm a non-technical person, and if I can log in 30 seconds, I'll show you how many projects that I have created on one of these platforms. There are, again, to be vendor neutral, there are platforms available like Heroku, there are platforms available like Cloud Foundry, which is an open platform as a service. In fact, what I'm showing you now is Bluemix. So I would actually urge all of you to go to this free platform and get yourself and your students to actually start building projects, making them enterprise grade. So what do I mean by enterprise grade? If you're creating a banking application, the bank wants it to actually comply to some security norms. So these kind of platforms as a service automatically provides you the APIs for it. So you don't need to, this is how it looks, right? So a non-technical person like me has actually created so many different apps in a period of the last 3 weeks since I have taken this job. You get 8 GB of space already. You have 20 odd services. I'll just show you the services and I'll stop my talk because I think we're running out of time. Ma'am talked about Internet of Things. So I don't need to worry about which runtimes I need. I just select the boilerplate. It gives me the ready-made, the Node-RED. It gives me the database that I need. And all these are open source databases, as well as some of our competitors' services are available. Some of our partner services are available, right? I'll just show you quickly what all is available. So you have for cloud integration, cast iron. You have for any kind of data acceleration, you can use Elastic, MQ. You can use things like Redis Cloud. For any kind of GPS integration, you don't have to write the APIs. You can use reverse geocoding from Pitney Bowes. And you have NoSQL, you have SQL for mobile data management, mobile application security, for mobile quality assurance. So directly you can test your mobile app on your phone. So you no longer just have to write app for fun, but you can actually test these apps using these services and put it on either iStore or Android store and make money. In the last 4 weeks that I've been traveling, I met up with a second year engineering or third year engineering student from the startup village in Cochin. He actually made a very simple app which changes the screensaver every morning when you switch on your phone. And he makes about $100,000 a year because he gets downloads from all over the world. So whether you want your students to be entrepreneurs or whether you want them to be great employees, please use the cloud, leverage the cloud, and see how we can have a better India as well as a better academy. So last slide, just for your reference, great quote by Gandhiji, be the change you wish to see. That's what I did. I made myself relevant in the last 3 weeks. I got on the cloud. I knew none of these. I started tweeting. So if you see my Twitter, at the rate IRNIL, I just have 45 followers, but I'm following about 225 people. Whole lot of knowledge repositories, Quora, right? Anywhere your interest is, whether your interest is in genetic engineering, you just go to these websites and get yourself added on, and a lot of information comes to you every day. Open source development in the cloud, hub.jazz.net, open source platforms like Cloud Foundry and Bluemix.net. Urge all of you to go onto these, create your free IDs, and then of course make myself employable, right? Recognized as a thought leader. I'm on LinkedIn, Google Hangouts, and I do a whole lot of webinars on all these different kind of sites. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, Peshnesh.